I'm still trying to breathe a little bit after watching this game because this was an insane kind of game. But just like many of those dramatic movie where this is kind of like the climactic point of the movie, I'm gonna save that suspense until the end of this video, and this of course will be the last game I will talk about. But instead, I'm gonna be talk about the first game. And oh, by the way, I am actually doing this on Wednesday. Originally I was gonna think about doing this on Thursday because I got a midterm exam tomorrow, and then I have to go to sleep early to basically prepare for the midterm. But I realized that tomorrow I have to attend a gala at nighttime, and that there would be no time for me to actually be at home. In fact, I won't be returning home until midnight tomorrow. So most likely what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like the news of the week, which unfortunately I just forgot that I haven't done news of the week yet, and I was supposed to do right at the end of the Minnesota versus Galaxy game. But I'm going to do it tomorrow, and I'm going to do it probably when I get back on Friday morning, or I'll do it like in Friday afternoon alongside with the preview for MLS Matchweek number 9. But yeah, let's get into these games. And also, I'm actually going to start doing timestamp in some of these games. I know there was somebody that were asking me that I forgot one of the game, and it turns out that I actually didn't forget one of those games. I actually did mention it, but he said that I didn't mention it. So because of that, I'm going to start thinking about doing timestamp, because in case for those of you that probably have not, like when you watch this video and you think you forgot a game, I'll make sure I'll put like all the timestamp in the comment section so that you'll be for sure that I will cover all of these games. But with that being said, let us begin with the first game, which is NYCFC versus Chicago. Oh, and by the way, before we get into this, I promise this is the last thing I'll say, is that, in terms of the midweek action, most of these games wasn't very kind of dramatic. I mean, this was really the only one that was super dramatic and super crazy. The rest was, yeah, it was kind of okay. And this was kind of the one that I would say it's the most boring one. I'm not gonna lie, but this was a very sloppy game for both of these teams. And the only goal in this game came in the 8th minute when Castellano scored from Abard and Morales. And that was actually the only shot that NYCFC had in the first half. They had one shot on goal, and that was the one that they scored. And really, it was just an ugly kind of game. And both teams couldn't really create anything. I'm not quite sure, is it because of midweek or is it because of the infamous Yankee Stadium pitch, but it looks like a very slow and boring game. And I thought maybe we were gonna, like, if it wasn't for this goal, I thought for sure that this game is gonna end 0-0. But because of this goal, it looked like most likely it's gonna end 1-0. Now in the second half, there was a bit of a couple of headlines to kind of glance over this boring match. Veljko Paunovic actually got sent off in this match, and I think he is the first manager to get sent off in this season. And I believe it's been a long time since I have seen a manager getting sent to the stands or sent off to the dressing room. It just doesn't usually happen in MLS, but he got sent off. And what's interesting about this is that when I was watching this game on ESPN Plus, right about the 77th minute, ESPN Plus just say yeah, we have technical difficulty with the match. And then I basically tried to refresh it, and then 2 minutes later the game was back on. And then all of a sudden, when the game was back on, I just saw Paunovic and a couple of his assistants kind of like jogging around. I'm like, what's going on? And then I realized that, oh, he's been sent off. I don't know why he got sent off. And I later find out that he got sent off because he was keep arguing with the fourth official, and the fourth official of course gave him a warning that you got to back off now or else I'm gonna kick you out of the game. Obviously Veljko Paunovic did not take that warning, so yeah, he of course got sent off in this match. And then about bell late in the game, and right as we approached the first minute of stoppage time, Chicago gave away a penalty, and NYCFC had a chance to pretty much put the game away. And the player that steps up on this penalty kick was Maxi Morales. Now, last week, Maxi Morales had a penalty right near the end of the half, and he missed it. And when I saw him stepping up, and last week I heard there was a couple of NYCFC fans that weren't happy that Maxi Morales was taking penalties because he wasn't really good at it. And the fact that in this game I see him step up again, I had a bad feeling about this, and I had a feeling that he's gonna miss. And would you believe it? He missed this one. Osted basically went the right way. I mean, it was a decent save, but it was not really a good penalty, and something tells me this is probably the last time you'll see Maxi Morales taking penalty. Like, seriously, if you miss 2 penalty in 2 games in a row, something tells me you shouldn't be the penalty kick taker. But the good thing about NYCFC, just like the last game, the penalty kick really didn't matter because that would be the final score in this game, and the shots in this game pretty much just shows how boring this game was. Chicago only had 6 shots compared to 4 that NYCFC had. Chicago had no shots on goal compared to 2 that NYCFC had. Both teams had 2 shots off target. Both teams did not have any block shots, and Chicago had 52% possession compared to 48% possession. So if you're NYCFC, it was an ugly win, but at the end of the day, it's back-to-back wins. And if you're Domai Turin, who he did say that during this midweek that he was feeling actually he said this before the NYCFC versus DC game, where he was feeling the pressure and he was feeling the heat that he was going to get fired, and now all of a sudden he's been able to pull off back-to-back victory, and maybe NYCFC is back on track. And as for Chicago, yeah, this is what I was talking about, how inconsistent they are. Like, this team, it's like, it's either the defense that is a problem, that is the reason why they lost the game, or it's just the attack that is not really clicking whatsoever. And in this game, it was the attack. And for a team that coming into this game are known to have a very good attack and create a ton of chances, and maybe, again, going back to what I said about how this game is played at Yankee Stadium and, the dimension, maybe that's kind of throw Chicago a little bit off of the game, but the offense in this game was just absolutely dreadful. And yeah, it's back to the drawing board for the Chicago Fire, and I believe I actually don't know who they play on the weekend, but both of these teams, of course, will be back on the weekend. And I believe I don't even know who or NYCFC is playing. I'm just kind of rushing forward in terms of doing this review so that I can just hit the hay as soon as possible. But yeah, next up, Montreal. So they won 3-0 against New England. And this was a game that I thought for sure that it was going to probably be like a 1-0 or 0-0 game, because both of these teams, they just could not score. And by the way, Montreal, before this game, they actually had a problem getting to New England when their flight was actually canceled, and that they had to take a charter bus. And obviously that brings up another discussion that I won't really discuss right now, that talk about how MLS team, they really need, MLS need to give these teams unlimited kind of charter flight. They need to do something that the NFL, MLB, and all the other American professional sports usually do, which is they shouldn't have these kind of professional athletes just fly commercial flight to their next destination for the away game. But like I said, that's a discussion for another day. But in this game, in the first half, there was no score. And in the second half, as we head into the 75th minute, I didn't really keep an eye a lot on this game. And if you already realized, I didn't really watch most of these games. This is the only one that I watched the full 90 minutes. Because when you had 4 games at once, at one point during this midweek, it's really hard to keep up with all the game. But I thought, when I look at this game, and as the longer this went 0-0, I thought, yeah, this is probably going to end 0-0. But then out of nowhere, Montreal had a free kick, and then when the free kick was coming, it looked like for sure that the New England goalkeeper, Cody Cropper, was going to save that one. And Cropper had a decent game against the Red Bulls, and he also had a decent game in this one too, up until this point where he basically just spilled it, and then Schum was able to to get there to basically tap that one in. It was a shocking goalkeeping howler, and it was an absolute gift that Montreal had in this game. And that goal really kind of, who knew that that goal actually really opened the floodgates for Montreal, because New England, yeah, their heads clearly dropped after that goal. Jackson Hamill scored from Lovitz to make it 2-0 to Montreal. And then Jackson Hamill again with a goal from Bahead to make it 3-0 Montreal. And that is the final score of this game. So Jackson Hamill with a brace, and a guy that you probably have never heard before, unless you're a Montreal fan, having a very decent game in this one with a brace. And in terms of the shots in this game, New England had 10 shots compared to 15 that Montreal has. And just like Chicago, New England didn't have a single shot on goal compared to 9 that Montreal has. They had 4 shots compared to 5 that Montreal has. 1 shot that was blocked for Montreal compared to 6 that New England has. And New England did have 56% possession compared to 44% possession. And yeah, for Montreal, I thought the last 10 minutes in this game, they looked like a team that actually still had Piatti on the pitch, and looked like a team that was the dark horse kind of team that I was talking about. And, you know, for Montreal, this is definitely a very promising resort, considering the fact that they are continue to try to grind out until Piatti comes back. And something tells me when Piatti does come back, this Montreal team is going to be a very, very dangerous team. And this team right now, I think they've been flying under the radar. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've been just grinding out resort game after game. They're just squeezing out every bit of their talent and just trying to stay afloat in the water. But so far, it has worked out very well for them. And as for New England, yeah, there's not much I can talk about New England I haven't said. They are just god awful. And even in the win against the Red Bulls, I had a feeling New England wasn't gonna continue to maybe build on a winning streak, because they just haven't looked good at all this season, and especially their attack too. Like, this is the 5th game in 9 that they have been shut out. Yeah, this is definitely not good. And this is also the 3rd time they got shut out at home this season. I mean, anytime when you're getting shut out and drop points at home, you know that you are having a very bad season right now. But yeah, moving on. DC. So, I'll tell you what. DC, I've been saying it. This team, for whatever reason, they're doing the complete opposite of what they did last season, which is they can't win at home, but somehow they can win on the road now. And this time, it was Wayne Rooney with the only goal of this game, and I think that's the first goal for Rooney in the last couple of games. He's been pretty invincible in the last couple of games, but he stepped up in this game, and he stepped up on a free kick. And although I know people are going to say that it was a fantastic free kick from Rooney, which it was, I'm not going to take away from that. But one thing I will say is that Columbus wall that was defending that free kick, yeah, I don't know what happened there, because that free kick from Rooney, it didn't even go above any of the Columbus crew head. It kind of went straight through the wall, and I'm not sure that it actually went around the wall or it just goes straight through the middle, but something happened. Like, the ball, the ball was basically struck between the waist of the Columbus crew player's wall, and I would think somebody would have at least blocked that, but instead it just kind of went right through, and just like that, it was 1-0. Zach Steffen had no chance of saving that. Consider the penalty was just so close. It was literally 1 yard away from being a penalty, and 1 yard away from the 18-yard box. But yeah, that's the only goal of this game. And you know, in terms of the shots in this game, Columbus had 17 shots compared to 16 that DC had. 5 shots on goal compared to 6 that DC had. 6 shots off target compared to 3 that DC had. 6 shots that was blocked compared to 7 that DC had. 59% possession compared to 41% that DC had. And for Columbus, this is what I've been saying about this team, and this is probably the reason why they're started losing a lot of these games, is that they just cannot score right now. And we know that Columbus is one of those teams that they're not going to score a ton of goals. They might score like 1 or 2. But we know that they have an excellent defense, that they can just basically limit their opponent to like just 1 or 2 goals, and they can just like win 1-0 or 2-1 like that. But right now for Columbus, they just simply can't score. Like the the goal well has clearly dried up for this team, and really, it doesn't matter how good your defense is. It doesn't matter if you only can see like one goal per game. As long as if you don't score a goal, you are not gonna win a game. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's true for Columbus. Like this team, they have not they I know they scored in the last game, but they only have scored like 2 goals of the last 4 games, and that is definitely not a recipe to basically do well in this league. And right now, when you look at this team, and it's not like they're missing a lot of big pieces on the attacking end. It's just that some of the pieces that they've been relying on scoring goals, guys like Jarzy Zardes, for example, he hasn't really scored a goal in a while now. And early in the season, I think Columbus, the reason why they were so good was they did enough. They just did enough in terms of the goal scoring part, and they score a lot of those set pieces. And it's cool to score set pieces goal, but at the same time, if that is gonna be the only thing that you're relying on, yeah, that's probably not gonna work out so well, because teams, they're gonna find a way to defend set piece better when they face against you, and when the set piece are not going for you, then there's you need a plan B, which this Columbus team clearly don't have a plan B when the set piece goal is just not there. So yeah, it's a frustrating loss for Columbus, but for DC, nice bounce back win. Although I feel like there is still a little bit issue with this team. Consider this is also another team where both of these teams I talked about coming in have problem in terms of goal scoring, and I think coming out of this game, both of these teams are still having that uncertainty, because DC, if it wasn't for that Rooney strike, this would have been a 0-0 game in this one, and it would have been a very frustrating 0-0 game for both of these teams. But yeah, next up, speaking of 0-0 draw, this was a 0-0 draw, but in many ways it shouldn't have been a 0-0 draw, because there was a lot of chance between Minnesota and the Galaxy, and the shots in this game doesn't really tell that. Minnesota had 12 shots compared to 10 that the Galaxy had, 1 shots on goal compared to 4 that the Galaxy had, 6 shots off target for both teams, 5 shots that was blocked, and the Galaxy had 57% compared to 43%, which is much lower than this one and this game. But one thing I will say is that when you look at this game and you look at the shots that was created by both of these teams, they were very, very close from going into the net. Like, some of them were just inches away from missing the net. Minnesota in the first half, they had so many opportunities to score the first goal, and this has been kind of a problem for Minnesota, where they just could not be able to find the back of the net in the last game, and it's happened again in this one. And when you of course are at home, and this is the other thing that I am a little bit concerned about Minnesota, because with the first 2 games at Allianz Field, they have already dropped 4 points in their first 2 games. And Allianz Field is supposed to be a fortress for Minnesota. I talked about how Allianz Field is going to be a fortress because Minnesota, we know that they are good at home. But in these first 2 games, yeah, it doesn't seem like a fortress whatsoever. And I get that they were playing NYCFC and the Galaxy, which 2 teams that is not easy to play. But at the same time, yeah, dropping points at home, this is something that, if Minnesota is going to make the playoffs, they cannot afford to keep dropping points. And even though they have won more home games that they have been in the last 2 seasons, anytime when you drop home points, it's a very agonizing thing. And especially in this game, like I said, the finishing was just god awful for this game. There was a couple of decent chances. Like, Quintero had a couple of decent chances. I remember the best chance was this shot on goal where Quintero was one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and he hit. And to be fair, Bingham made a good save, but seriously, 9 out of 10 times Quintero is gonna bury that one. But yeah, Minnesota, they'll be disappointed with dropping points again at home. And as for the Galaxy, I mean, I'm not sure they should be that disappointed. I think the only disappointing thing will be the fact that their winning streak is now over at 5 games or 6 games, I believe. But at the same time, it's a midweek game. You have to go on the road. And anytime when you have to go on the road for a midweek game, especially if you have to travel to the Midwest, that's always going to be tough. So I think the Galaxy, even though it was frustrated that they couldn't get all 3 points, and certainly Zlatan showed that frustration throughout the game where there was just numerous times he was screaming at his teammates, saying that they're not giving him service during the game. But, for the Galaxy, I think they'll be happy and content with this point, and they need to, of course, move on and bounce back next week so that they can potentially get all 3 points. But finally, as I'm going to put the timestamp on this one, is the game of this week. And this was just insane. I don't remember the last time I watched a Quakes match when the Quakes are on the road, and I have to experience just such a heart-pounding kind of match. And this game as a Quakes fan, this game was basically me being in dreamland for about 60 minutes, and then the nightmare begins, and then you're getting so nervous that they eventually are going to go back to old habit, and then at the end of the day, they were able to hold on. I mean, this was just as nerve-wracking as watching the Sharks and the Golden Knights in Game 7. I was just sweating to hell for the last 15 minutes, just praying that, the last 15 minutes of this game, the game just kind of opens up for both of these teams, and both of these teams had so many chances of scoring that third goal. And as a road team, when you decided to play an open game on the road, that is a very dangerous game to play, because on one hand, if you play an open game, maybe you can get a goal, but if you give up even one goal to the home team, and knowing the Quakes, when they give up one goal, and we saw it again tonight, they just capitulate, and the rest is history. I had a bad feeling that the Quakes are just going to give that one goal up in terms of this kind of open play kind of game, and that it was just going to be over. But that did not happen in this game, and instead, this was certainly a game that I would definitely be very proud of what the Quakes did, despite of the fact that, as I'm going to mention, they blew a 2-0 lead. But in the first half, there was, for the first 15 minutes, man, it was nerve-wracking. For the first 15 minutes, it looked like, it feels like I was watching the Quakes from last season on the road, where they just could not hold on to possession. Seattle were all over us. They had so many chances of potentially putting the ball into the back of the net inside the first 20 minutes, and I thought, oh my God, we are going to definitely be in for a rough ride. And actually, before we get any deeper into this game, we talked about this being a trap game for the Seattle Sounders. And one of the interesting things that they decided to do in this game is that they decided to put pretty much almost the same starting 11 that start the LAFC game and play in this game too. I thought for sure that they were probably going to rest some guys. They did rest 2 guys. They did rest Roman Torres and Brad Smith, although technically they rest 1 guy, because I'm assuming Roman Torres is probably not going to be playing on Saturday. And they also put Chad Marshall back into the starting 11, which I was definitely surprised by that, because I thought, Chad Marshall, him playing in this game was the first time since he suffered that injury in the playoffs of last year, and I thought, I feel like if you're going to play Chad Marshall, and we know that he is fit to play in this game, but I think if you're going to put out your best player, your best defender out there, you probably could have done it maybe during the biggest game of the season, which is next week against LAFC, and not do it against the Quakes in kind of a trap game like this. So that was very interesting to see. But going back to what I said about how that we were all over, the Sounders were all over us for the first 20 minutes. But then after that, things changed. The Quakes, they started to get out of that shell where they just kind of defend, and they started to play almost like a home game. The Quakes started to string in some passes I haven't seen them done a lot on the road, and they started to create some chances to potentially score a goal. And, like I said, I haven't seen that from the Quakes in a very long time. I've seen it a couple of times in some of the road games that we had in the past, but it's only for like a short period of time. But this wasn't just a short period of time. This was continuously throughout the first half. And would you believe, because of us playing that positive soccer, we were rewarded with a goal. And Shea Salinas, he just cannot stop scoring goal, can he? He scores from Eriksson to give the Quakes a 1-0 lead. Now, Seattle, they almost equalized in this game when we gave away a free kick in a very bad position, and I thought Ladero was going to basically score on the free kick. Fortunately, that didn't happen. And then Jordan Morris, who of course is one of my favorite player, he actually went through on goal, and I thought, oh goodness, this is going to be a bittersweet moment where my favorite player is going to score against the team that I support. But it didn't happen because he kind of got caught by the turf monster and also kind of caught Vega a little bit as he went down. And then we had a chance to make it 2-0 right before the half, and I think it was, oh god, I forgot who actually crossed the ball, but when the ball was coming in, Jackson Yu was able to get to this ball, and Jackson Yu, another amazing game. See what happened when I said before that I rate Jackson Yu, and I know that this kid is going to do good things. Yeah, look what happened. These last couple of games, he's been just such a big influence for this team. But Jackson Yu, he literally was trying to tap that one in, and he just missed by an inch off the post. And my, oh my, that would have been sweet to go into halftime with a 2-0 lead. Now, we did eventually get a 2-0 lead, and we could have got it a little bit earlier when Espinoza, for the second road game in a row, just basically bangs one off the post, and I thought, oh goodness, is this going to be one of those games where we're not gonna score many goals and we're just gonna hit the post? And we hit the post again a couple of seconds later before this goal happened. But a couple of seconds later, Salinas again scoring a goal from Espinoza, and it was 2-0 for the Quakes. And it was absolute dreamland. It was something that I've never seen before, and I was ready to basically prepare to basically think about what I'm gonna say in this review. But then I also remember that, remember how I said in the past how I know the Quakes are gonna blow it. They are gonna always find a way to blow it, whether it's home or away, especially away. Whenever they have a lead, they always find a way to blow it. And unfortunately, that kind of feeling came into reality. And the Sounders, they got back in this game from a corner, and it was really poorly defending for us. Obviously, I think the main culprit of this is Shea Salinas. Didn't do a good job kind of marking Lear down there, but still, it was a collective players in that marking in terms of that corner that we just did a horrible job. But Seattle got back in this game from Leardam, Keehee, and Ladero. But then, 2 minutes later, you know how the Quakes, they always tends to find a way whenever they concede a goal on the road. They always, 9 out of 10 times, they capitulate. And they capitulate again in this one because, again, from the corner, Ship scores from Ladero and Smith. And just like that, it was 2-2. And just like that, I was shitting my pants and just, I knew this game was over. Like, I knew it was over, not because we're going to get a point out of this, but I knew we're not going to get all 3 points. The Sounders, I've seen them before where they can score in quick succession, and they're just going to run people over. And for the last 15 minutes, as I mentioned in the beginning of the review of this game, I thought for sure that we were not going to hold on, and I was sweating like hell. I was sweating like that Game 7 that the Sharks and Golden Knights was playing in overtime, and yet, somehow, we were able to survive, and to be fair, we did kind of time waste a lot at the end of the game. I mean, we were just nursing through our ways to make sure we hold on to this 2-2 game, which we did. We hold on to get a point on the road, and when you look at the shots, it will show you how this was a crazy game. Seattle had 21 shots compared to 17 that the Quakes had. They had 8 shots on goal compared to the 6 the Quakes had. 9 shots off target compared to 7 that the Quakes had. 4 shots that was blocked. And in terms of possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession. This was just an absolute crazy kind of game. And if you're a neutral, this is why MLS is such a this is why MLS is should maybe consider one of the best league in the world because of how great, like, the soccer in this game was just absolutely amazing. It was back and forth and back and forth. It was very kind of open, and it was very end to end at time. And you know, as a fan of one of these teams, it's definitely something that I don't enjoy. But as a neutral, this is kind of like what happened last week between LAFC versus Seattle, minus the fact that one team didn't really show up and the other team basically run riots. But overall, for the Quakes, despite the 2-0 lead that we blown in this game, I'm actually very happy with this performance. As I mentioned before, I don't really expect, like, even if they do this, if I see the effort and I see the performance, and the effort was clearly there in this game. They were fighting to the very end. They were taking Seattle to the very end in this game. And if that's kind of the spirit that this team will show, resort will eventually play out to you. And we did get a resort in this game by getting a point out of Seattle. And if you're the Sounders, you would definitely be very disappointed about this game. I mean, I don't want to say that they kind of fall into a trap because they at least got a point out of this. But one thing I will say is they really spent a lot of energy in this game, and this makes me very concerned for their weekend game against LAFC. Like, they even bring in Brad Smith late in the game, so they pretty much played their same starting 11 in this game as they did against LAFC, and now on the weekend game when they play against LAFC, it's going to be interesting to see what they have left in the tank. Did they burn too much energy in this game against the Quakes so that they can come back and get a point out of this one? But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for my preview or my review of this game. Don't forget, I will be doing the preview video on Friday and also the news of the week. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.